Welcome to Ink and Bones, my name is Jaden, and in this video we're going to go through the time-lapse of the sketch layout and pencils of page 16 of my creator-owned Halloween comic book. Let's get drawn. For page 16, Patty, Jack, and Timmy, our hero characters, have tracked the bullies down who stole Timmy's candy. They have tracked them down to the cemetery, and now they have begun their ambush on the bullies with stink bombs and throwing handfuls of slime. So for this page, I will go through my 3 objectives that I want to hit, like usual, but I kind of want to start focusing and honing in on my main objective, the thing that I was really thinking about while drawing this page. The 3 overall objectives are still storytelling, character acting, and the setting/tone. And for this page, my main objective will fall under the storytelling section, with a heavy emphasis on pacing, the action, and camera angles, but really focused on the pacing of the page. So when I'm constructing this page, especially when it comes to panel layout, I'm trying to make sure that the panel orientation and sizing speeds up the action. You know, it needs to feel like the bullies are being ambushed. Do I properly illustrate what has been written for the page? And is the dichotomy of the 2 groups clear? Are the heroes in charge? And do the bullies seem scared and in trouble? So while we figure all that out, let's go ahead and get into the sketch portion of the time lapse. So this page opens up with the line, "throwing handfuls of slime." So I knew we had to get right into the action, and the second you turn the page, it is the heroes jumping out of the stink bomb gas, sliming the bullies like it's a fucking Nickelodeon Choice Award. And because I want this to feel very quick and have a lot of movement, instead of drawing this all in one big panel, I felt it would speed the action up if it was broken down, mainly when they get attacked, if it was broken down into a close-up, a very close-up shot, quick cut almost as if this was a movie, of the bullies getting hit. And that comes straight down to the pacing because it has to feel fast. And to help with that, even like the panel layout in this, you could see it's a little bit more disoriented when the bullies are getting hit. It just kind of gave that feeling of disorientation and maybe a little bit of quickness. So the ambush happens, the bullies are hit, you know, bam, 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 bam. They're all knocked out right in a row. We got the bullies nice and scared. They're in a smoke-filled haze. They can't see anything in front of them. They are freaked the fuck out. And at this point, the main thing I needed to illustrate was the heroes jumping out at the bullies. But now, since I've got there, I only have a little bit less than half of the page to showcase what has been written, which is the heroes demanding them to return the candy and the bullies returning the candy, almost in an act of pleading for their mercy, almost like a surrender. So to amp up the fear, because I gotta keep that fear ratcheted up for the bullies, from the bullies' perspective, the smoke bomb acted perfectly. It just amped up the fact that the bullies have no idea who this is, what's happening. They just hear this scary voice. They've been fucking slimed. It just keeps them very much on their toes and believable to the reader that the bullies would give their loot back to these hero characters once they've been revealed. And all this has to be done in a very concise manner. I don't have a lot of room for filler, especially in this page. Pretty much I needed to believably go from the heroes attacking the bullies to the bullies surrender in essentially 5 images. And that is, again, why the main lesson for this one is pacing, because that is the only thing that I'm thinking of. How do I get to that end point with the least amount of fat? I want it to be lean, I want it to be quick, I want it to be claustrophobic. So I broke it down into what are the emotions/beats that I really need to hit in order to sell this page. And it pretty much broke down to surprise, attack, fear, the reveal, and then apology from the bully side. Once I figured out that I needed to hit those beats, that really set me up for success, because it all came down to the timing of the page rather than little details here and there. Now, the pacing and all that stuff, yes, that is the main dish of this page, but of course, none of that could really be sold without the character acting. So let's jump into the pencils while I figure these guys out. So not a whole lot to highlight in the character section. It's kind of simple. The heroes need to have cool poses, seem imposing, look badass, and the bullies need to look scared. I have a bully holding the arm of one of the other ones, scared. One of them's kind of like, you know, doing this sort of thing, like he's touching his fingers and looking over his shoulder. I have everything about them seems timid, weak, afraid. And even in the reveal, it's not like I don't know if there's like a bright light or whatever, but I even have one of the bullies, like from the over-the-shoulder shot, one of the bullies is even like shielding himself. They're just very scared. Everything I wanted them to show was fear. And one thing I will say, just because, I mean, this happens, it hasn't happened in a few pages, but this for sure was something that was nagging me, is the bullies' faces and just how they look. They don't look like bullies to me. Like, when they're standing in the smoke, I mean, they kind of look sweet. They don't really look menacing. They all kind of have the same haircut. There's not a lot of difference between them, and they just don't give me that bully vibe. So I'm not going to go through and fix it right now, but once the inks come around, once I get to inking these pages, I'm going to go in and kind of revamp the way the bullies, just their faces and maybe even their costumes for the most part. I mean, I like them all having the Grim Reaper hoods. They're all like a gang, but I'm definitely going to rework some of their faces. They just don't look like bullies to me. They honestly kind of look like Timmy. And then, of course, the setting and tone. Does this feel like Halloween? I hope so. There's cemeteries, spooky trees. I got the jack-o'-lanterns on the ground, a bunch of kids in costumes. I would hope that it feels like Halloween without the colors. It's going to get colored eventually, so that'll obviously sell it. But yes, I made sure that I even made sure that the graves that they were sitting at on the previous page are the same graves that are in this page, and, you know, keep everything cohesive and nice and hopefully looking spooky. And before we do the final scroll through, let's just make sure we got our objectives handled. We made sure panel sizing and orientation help speed up the action. We made sure the scene felt like an ambush. It felt very claustrophobic for the bullies. Very little breathing room in between panels. And this little part, this will be on you when we do the final scroll through, but do I properly illustrate what has been written for the page? And can you tell as the reader, without any words, the dichotomy of the two groups? And I think, yes, we can clearly tell who is in charge and who is at the short end of that stick. Well, we have reached the end of the pencils. So last thing before we do the final scroll through is just remember, always be mindful of the scene you are drawing. Make sure you feel it out, because it all has to do with the pacing. And the pacing is just how much space you give each moment. Bigger panels may slow the action down, while smaller close-up shots may speed it up. So once you start thinking in terms of time rather than detail, your page layouts will become a lot more intentional. And with that, let's go ahead and get into the final scroll through of the page 16 pencils. So when the moment was right and the timing was prime, they screamed trick or treat, throwing handfuls of slime. Melissa was hit, so was Randy and Billy. A stink bomb hit Jimmy, he was crying so silly. Green gas filled the air as the ambush still ensued. The bullies stood scared, not a clue what to do. It's simple, you see, if you want us to stop, give back all the candy you bullies ripped off. The bullies had gathered all the candy with haste and handed it back, not a moment to waste. And that about wraps it up for the page 16 pencils. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more, consider subscribing, slash that like button. And if you want to see the pages that I penciled so far, go ahead and check out the Patty and Jack playlist. But until then, this has been another episode of Ink and Bones, and I will see you on the next page.